how often they're able to meet, how distracted they are outside the session, how stressful their life is. So there's a lot of variables that play into that. So I'd say, you know, if they have a pretty manageable stress-free life, they don't have a long history of like trauma. They've hurt each other, but but it's not like major like affairs and things like that. You know, you're probably working with them for 6 months. But other people, I mean, which is the majority that come in, it's like years, at least a year, and that's if they come in at least every week. You know, at the most every other week. It doesn't even work if you go every 3 weeks. If you move from every 2 weeks to every 3 weeks, then everything becomes about update. The whole session's about, they got to update you on where they're at. So they have to meet often enough so there's a thread between the sessions, so it's not all about repairing the last 3 weeks. You know, because then you're back into crisis. We're repairing the last 3 weeks, so they undo what you do in therapy. So the gold standard is once a week, and sometimes twice a week, depending on how distressed they are.
Do you tell them at the front end, like, this is going to take a while?
No.
Okay.
I do. They'll ask about it. They'll say, well, how often? And I'll say, well, the gold standard is once a week, and you know, like it depends on the level of distress in your relationship and your own history on how long we'll be doing this. But you can expect anywhere from 6 months to a year. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 years, depends on the couple. Yeah, so you have to be prepared financially to be able to invest in this way. You know, I could give you some anecdotal things for you to do, but they wouldn't last. You know, and so this is the way I do therapy. I work from the bottom up, and emotions become important, and restructuring long-term patterns is important, and that'll take some time. Yeah, and sometimes it has to do with their own willingness and how wired they are for war versus wired for love, and you know how detached they are. You know, sometimes they're just like the withdrawer. The withdrawer. If you have 2 withdrawers, that's harder. It takes longer. You know, a withdrawal pattern, because you have the pursuers that burn out now, and you have to get them back into pursuit. And then it's harder for the withdrawer to pursue because they're both withdraw. So it's really, yeah, you kind of, there's certain couples that come in and I go, okay, this is not going to take as long because of where you're at. And I can give them hopeful. And some come in and I'm like, oh gosh, this is a mess, you know. So, yeah. And like in your case, when you have someone who's been severely traumatized, well, now you're working on not just the relationship dance, you're working on some individual history of trauma, which can complicate the progress too. So, but you still follow the same pattern. It just you can be at a certain stage, I mean, for a long time. Yeah, we've been working with our couple for a long time. We waffle between stage 1 and stage 2 all the time. Work.
For a year and a half now.
Oh gosh, sometimes they come in distressed. Their problem is transitioning. They can actually take on the enactments in the session, but transitioning outside the session,
They don't do much at home.
they don't. They just, yeah, that's the biggest challenge for us. Like, I'm going to go home with them and follow them around and say, stop that, no, stop that. It's like they walk out and they get to the sidewalk and they forget what they did in session. You know, they just get, so, and they're angry with that too, you know, and that's probably the point where it's really hard, is them transitioning it out of the session. Yeah. But we still have to do quite a bit of coaching. So we're really like, if we're in stage 2, we're in 6 a lot.
5 and 6.
5 and 6 a lot. And we can't let go of the reins. We've never been able to let go of the reins and say, okay, you guys do it. Because then they start, they're like, like, no, you do it well with us. You know, it takes a lot, like the wife doesn't know how to soften enough to prime the husband's re-engagement, and he doesn't have a history of engagement, so even if she was softened enough, he wouldn't know how to engage. There's just a lot there to process, to get him to re-engage in a way that's competent, and he can even engage a certain degree, but he doesn't have the capacity to re-engage at a level that she can accept, you know, and so then she just like, yeah, he does it here, he does it for a few minutes, and it's just not enough, and I know there's something more there. It's just like, validate, you know, and then try. And but I said in the last 6 months, she's accepted more of his engagement. She's been able to take it in a little bit more and say things like, yeah, like it's like that. If you do that at home, that would be great. So it's kind of funny that she's able to take it, but there's a little bit of criticism in it, you know, and like he's always feeling like he's never enough, he can never measure up, but It doesn't really bother him a whole lot because he's so avoidant. Right? So that's part of the problem, right? When she offers a complaint, he needs to be shredded in it. He's like, oh my gosh, I suck, I'm horrible. And then she'd be like, yeah, that's right. So now we're getting it. You know, like,
He's not. It's like, it's all good.
yeah, he's like, oh, those rose-colored glasses are driving me crazy. Like, you'll never get how much I'm hurting you until you do. I'm never gonna soften my blaming and criticism. So, I mean, this stuff looks really good, you know, out here. Like, step 1, step 2, now we're in 3. But it's so nuanced. But it gives you a general framework in which to work from, right? A map to help guide you, and you kind of know where you're at, kind of know where you're going. But man, it can go at snail's pace, and it can go backwards, and go forwards, and be all over the place. But you stay with your interventions, you stay with your conceptual framework, that's an attachment framework, and you stay with the patterns and the positions and the primary emotions, and you'll be okay. If you just stay with those things, continue to use them over and over again, and then if you struggle, get supervision. You know where you're at, and they got you out of your rhythm, and you don't know where you're going. Then someone outside of your own session can help redirect you and help you kind of figure out where you're at and how to get back in. To remember, if you really don't know where you're at, just go back to validation, right? Because validation is the core of stage 1. It's just the validating the story. Right, and then looking for the handles for the unmet attachment needs and primary emotions. And once you can get those handles again, then things start moving again. Yeah. If you have to go back, it's a lot easier to work with the individual than it is to work with a couple. Right? So if you're getting stuck, go back to one individual and work their primary emotions. Because if you're starting to work with both of them, it gets a lot more complex, and they can dismantle you quickly. Right? And so you just pause and go back to one and stay on one and get them softened. Remember, it's a system, and so it should impact the other. So we don't work with them, don't do enactments or work with them too early. Because if you work with them too early with each other, then it gets crazy. Right? Because they're not prepared to do it, and then they dismantle you, and then you feel chaotic inside, and you're like you were that first night, like, oh my gosh, this is completely out of control. Because we hadn't gone through enough of our own stage 1 work of de-escalation. We were still very escalated. So having us turn to each other was not going to work, right? So you got to know where you're at. Or you'll do an intervention like an enactment, or you'll do an evocative response of like, tell me what comes up for you when you hear them say that. But they're not ready for that. You know what they'll say? They'll say, I'll tell you what comes up for me, right? My own protest. That's what comes up for me. You know, and so they have to be ready to do that, or you're going to create an enactment that's going to set you back. Is this like clicking? I mean, you guys don't just need to nod your head. It's okay. Valerie nodded her head too, and she's telling me now she didn't understand it. So.
It's true.
They said there's gonna be a lot of coaching, like the stage 2 step.
Step
7. There's gonna be a lot of
6.
or step 6, yeah, step 7.
Yeah.
Because I remember I kind of like talked to him, like, what's kind of coming up for you, and you could tell he's kind of like the deer in the headlights, like, I don't even know how to respond. And that's where I was like, oh man, I should
To
help
the
him.
first
Yeah.
partner 1.
Yeah.
Then you can do it like
Yeah.
interpretations.
Yeah. I think that's what
Yeah, all those skills are great. Like if people are getting stuck, like heightening is a good way of getting them unstuck. The evocative, the interpretations are a good way of getting them unstuck. Yeah, sometimes they just need a little bit of help because they're really not finding it. So you can say, well, I wonder if some of what you're feeling is sadness. Yes. And in step 6, they'll be able to find it themselves. I mean, step 7, they'll be able to find it themselves. But step 6, they might need help. And in step 5, they'll need help. Really, they need help. They're on the training wheels until step 7. Right, from the beginning. And then in step 7, you like take off the training wheels and go for it. And then you move into stage 3. And that's where they're really able to do it on their own. Okay, good, thank you. Other questions? Any confusion? It can be, if you can think in your head right now, I don't get this at all, say it. This will help make it clear.
There's a term that I came across, first order change and second order change.
Yeah, first order change, well, it's not significant, but it is similar. First order change is like rearranging the furniture. Second order change, like replacing the furniture. So, first order change would be like asking them to use the same tools but in a different way. And first order change would be like asking them to replace the tools. Seeing the relationship in a whole new way. Not just
You
working
mean
with
second
them.
order change, you
Second
said
order change,
both.
yeah, second order change. And working with the relationship in a whole new way.
So this is second order change, EFT
Yeah.
is more of a second order change intervention, like system. First order change is more like iMessages and cognitive behavioral therapy, it's more of like a,
Which is like taking on new behaviors.
yeah.
The fact that I came across identified stage 1 as the first order change and then 2 and 3 as second order change.
Yeah, that'd be because you're identifying the cycle that they're aware of. You're going a little bit into the deeper cycle, but
Deeper stuff.
yeah. The second order change would be more stage 2.
It's like is it like you're reparenting?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Yes.
Model.
Yes. You know, it's interesting. I think like between 3, 4, and 5, the reparenting is done in this relationship.
Yeah.
Between me and each individual client, right? So I'm being a good enough parent, which allows them to move into withdrawal engagement, like softening. But then when you go into steps 6, 7, it's really them turning to each other and being the good enough parent. Yeah. So the correct emotional experience is happening between me and them first, and then it's happening between them after that. Yeah. Recorrecting old patterns and positions, and yeah. And keep in mind too, when you move into stage 3, I mean, they have patterns that have been in place for a long time, and so there's going to still be relapses, but they'll be able to repair and correct and step back in, look at what they did, and say, oh, I see our cycle in that. This is what happened, and then eventually they'll have less and less of those.
I think too, I've just finished working with a couple for about a year. They kind of graduated themselves, and they would come back several times after they were in, I would say, stage 3, and they were still having conflict, but they were so excited every time they came back because they knew what they were doing, and it was all content oriented. They'd be like, oh my gosh, we had this situation, this was the issue, but then they would talk me through what they did and what their unmet attachment needs were and how they solved it and how they figured it out. I mean, that's when you know that, like, they're getting better, like that their marriage is doing well, and then they tapered themselves down. And because like he was saying in stage 3, is that all of a sudden now what was going on, it wasn't threatening their survival the marriage wasn't threatened anymore. They had a context, they had a foundation. And so really all I would do was sort of just listen and congratulate them that they had figured it out, and that they felt, and they kept going back to this idea that we feel safe with each other, we feel like we understand one another, we love one another, that this is what he needs and this is what she needs, and then they would turn to one another, and then all of a sudden they realize they didn't pay me to do that, they could just do that at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's really good. I'm like,
Yeah.
if they've actually gone to second order change,
yeah,
then when they return to therapy, it's usually something developmental, like they'll say,
sounds different.
well, things are going well, but our kids are about to leave, and we just
Yeah.
make sure that we're doing things right.
Yeah,
You know, but it's not like they're coming in with high levels of distress,
Yeah.
where it's no longer about negotiating distance and unmet attachment needs. It's about life developmental changes and
that's
things
true,
like that.
because actually she comes back to me herself once a month because she wants to go back to graduate school. And so I think she wants to keep the connection with me because we have a relationship, and she's wanting to do things developmentally for herself because of our relationship, but the marriage
Yeah.
is better. She even says, she's like, marriage, check, but she wants
Yeah.
to stay close to me.
It's true. And if you don't work through all the stages into second order change, then what you'll get is they'll keep returning to you for problems.
Yeah,
Right? They'll keep coming back to you and they'll say, okay, help fix this for
what
us.
about this? Yeah.
Help fix this for us. And really, EFT takes you through teaching them how to fish, right? Rather than helping them fish for certain fish, right? So it's just like they learn then how to do it themselves within a secure cycle. Other than them coming in, okay, well, now it's about sex, or now it's about this, now it's about, it creates unhealthy dependency on the therapist over a long period of time. Like, we can only be healthy if we're at our therapist's office. You're working yourself out of a job, is what you're doing. But there's plenty of work, so don't worry about it.